Guys, how's it going? It's Sean from Ridesharing101.com with one of the weekly podcasts. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Last Wednesday, there's a story in Engadget, as well as some other sites, regarding a company called Cargo. And what Cargo does is they provide you with a pre-packed box of goodies to sell in your car. Things like phone chargers and snacks, which you can sell to your passengers. Items can be purchased through the app, and you need at least a 4.7 rating, and you need to drive often, but it doesn't say for how long. So it doesn't say 5 days a week, or 10 trips, or 20 trips. So that part is a little vague. It's not available in all cities. But Uber is I'm a little unclear whether they partner with them or if they bought the company. But anyway, you can use Cargo in your Uber vehicle. But my recommendation is never, never, never do this. The items that you sell, such as food, are going to be messy. We're talking chocolate, things that produce a lot of crumbs. And you don't want chocolate to get all over your seats and all over your floor mats. You don't want things ground into the carpet. And it's just a big mess. They say you can maybe make an extra $1,000 to $1,500 a year if you do this full time. And my question is, if you want to do something like this, you're much better off doing it yourself. People that will purchase these items will want to use them right away in your car. So if somebody buys a candy bar, it's because he or she is hungry. They're going to want to eat it right away, and they're going to make a mess. Plus, there's a markup on these items because that's how the profit is being made. So if somebody buys a candy bar for $2 or $3 instead of a normal $1, they're basically just going to figure, well, why should they tip you? Because they've just bought a candy bar. And I would rather get the tip than sell something that is going to cause you problems in terms of cleanup later. Also, if you do this, passengers are going to expect this from every driver. They're going to expect every driver to have something like this. And the ones that choose not to do this will be penalized. You're going to get lower ratings. Maybe they want a Milky Way candy bar and all you have is Snickers. Well, they're going to ding you on selection because people are petty and that's what they do. So please, please save yourself a lot of trouble and just don't do this. That's my recommendation to you. All right, moving on to the next story. Forbes reports that a new company, Embark, or a relatively new company, Embark, has entered the driverless truck market. And Embark received a whopping $30 million in financing this round, bringing their total up to $47 million over the last 2 years. And the founders are described as a couple of brash 22-year-olds. And I'm not even going to mention their names, because at 22, they really haven't done anything in their lives. Yet, somehow investors think that it's a good idea to give them $30 million more dollars for a total of 47. So they've given them a total of $47 million bucks. Now, obviously, they've already gone through $17 million and they have some trucks. But my response is, so what? They're taking on Uber and Waymo. They have 5 trucks right now, and they hope to get that up to 100. So let's do the math. 5 trucks were $17 million. But for $30 million more, they're going to do 20 times the amount that they've already done. 5 trucks are $17 million. They're going to do 20 times as many trucks for just double the price. Wow, man, these guys are genius. Silicon Valley just will never learn. Anyway, I don't begrudge anybody the ability to make a buck. I hope these kids can do it, but, you know, I'm not betting with them. All right, on Thursday, the website The Drive reports how an Uber driver in New York really had to go to the bathroom. So he whipped out an empty bottle and started to relieve himself. This story first appeared in the New York Post, and a passenger, Rochelle Carter, was in a pool ride when she heard the driver unzipping his pants. So she took out her phone and started to film. Now, fortunately, the video does not show the driver in action, so to speak, but you can evidently hear what's going on over the music. Now, the driver in question was banned by Uber for violating the conduct policy. And while I admire this guy's skill, I really have to question his judgment. Like, why couldn't he have gone before he picked up this passenger or after he dropped her off? You know, you think he could have planned accordingly, but evidently not. I just find it amazing. Let's see. The next story is a local story. NBC Bay Area reports that a woman left her backpack in her Uber and was locked out of her house for days. And I don't really know why this is a story, but it does bring up an interesting point, which I'll get to. Basically, a woman left her backpack that had her keys in it in her Uber. As soon as the Uber took off, she realized what she had done, and she tried to contact the driver and was unsuccessful. You can call on the app. You can call the driver on the app. Evidently, she couldn't get a hold of him. There's a place on the Uber website where you can note that you've left something in your Uber, and Uber tries to contact the driver and help you retrieve that. And evidently, she had zero luck with either one of those. And her complaint was, well, Uber really needs to streamline this process so the passengers can contact the drivers more easily, which you really don't want, because then you're going to get drivers and passengers trying to hook up, and it's going to be a nightmare. But evidently, this woman says that she was locked out of her house because she didn't have her keys, so she couldn't get into her house for a couple of days. I think maybe her roommate was out of town. And my question is, why didn't you just call a locksmith? I don't know why. So, I mean, if she'd done that, it really wouldn't have been much of a story. But evidently, NBC Bay Area thought it was. All right, moving on to Friday. According to a story in Ars Technica, the New York State Unemployment Appeal Board has ruled that 3 out-of-work Uber drivers can be considered employees for the purpose of unemployment benefits. Now, Uber can appeal the decision, but for now it's law and others can apply. The New York Taxi Workers Alliance ruled it a landmark decision. Quote, "This decision gives drivers a safety net and one that Uber has to pay for, challenging Uber's business model of low pay and lower retention. Uber treats drivers as if they are expendable, and up until now it's never had to come at a risk or a cost to the company," said Bhairavi Desai, the group's executive director. Now, this could be a profit killer for Uber because they would have to raise their rates, which really they should do anyway. Uber's rates are just extremely low. When a cab ride from like the Mission in San Francisco to the airport is $60 or $65, but the same trip is like $18, $19 on Uber, there's something off. And the thing is, if they're considered employees, Uber will have to pay unemployment insurance. There's a fund that Uber would need to pay into, and it's not cheap. And every time somebody files for unemployment, I believe your rate goes up. So it will be really, really interesting to see what happens with this. And if other states rule the same, it's going to cost a lot for Uber. So I'm sure you'll be hearing more about this. And let's see. The next story. CNN Money reports that yet another Uber executive is leaving. Prabir Ardarkar, head of global finance for Uber, is leaving for the CFO position at DoorDash. Now, this is interesting because Uber hasn't had a CFO since 2015. So I don't know why they didn't make this guy their CFO, but they didn't. He went to DoorDash, and now they're short another executive. And it's really interesting because there is supposedly an IPO coming from Uber the beginning part of next year, and yet they have lost another key executive. And you really need a chief financial officer if you're going to do an IPO. But, leave it to Uber. They do business a slightly different way from everybody else. And in a sad story, NBC reports that a man who had previously been deported pled guilty to a crash that killed a Colts linebacker and his Uber driver. This guy's blood alcohol level was 0.19, and as part of his plea agreement, they are dropping 2 counts of fleeing the scene. And I don't know why. This guy had been deported, he came back into the country illegally, was drunk, and killed 2 people. Sounds to me like they've got a case, but they decided they were going to drop those 2 charges. Again, I don't know why. This individual faces perjury, forgery, and identity deception as he impersonated somebody else when the police first contacted him. He faces 16 years in jail and a small fine. And I noticed that they mentioned the Colts player by name, but not the driver. And I'm sure that the driver's family really appreciates that. Going back to last Saturday in the St. Louis Dispatch, a St. Louis driver has put his passengers on a live feed on the mostly gaming site Twitch. And Twitch is a site where you can watch your friends play video games live. Yeah, it's a thing. Anyway, he streamed a feed of his passengers in his vehicle, giving people a glimpse of what they were saying, what they were doing. People could then comment about the individuals, and oftentimes they would rate their looks. Jason Gargak streamed hundreds of passengers on his site under the name Just Smurf. Passengers included children, drunk college students, Jerry Cantrell of the band Alice in Chains, as well as a news reporter of the St. Louis Dispatch. A news reporter that the St. Louis Dispatch evidently decided not to name. They named Jerry Cantrell, but not the reporter, who everybody knows who this person is because they're a reporter. But hey, some people's full names were revealed, as well as their houses. Their houses were shown where they were dropped off, and people are on tape, complaining about their bosses and work and husbands and wives. The driver, Jason Gargak, had a string of purple LED lights in the back which illuminated the people, which allowed them to be seen on his dash cam. Now, some people have complained to Uber. They were given a $5 credit, and the Uber driver has since been deactivated by both Uber and Lyft. This is a good note to bring up. I don't know what the law is in Missouri, but in California, you cannot do this unless it's posted somewhere in the vehicle that you are taping people. So if you have like a sticker on your window that says you're being filmed, you could do something like this. If you don't have that kind of notification, then it is illegal and it is a criminal offense. Every state is different. but that's how it is in California. And the last story, sad note. And let's end this on a note of caution. A man accused of impersonating a rideshare driver and raping 4 women in San Francisco has pled not guilty in court. Orlando Vilches Lazo evidently would pull up in a car outside a club or a bar, and when approached by a female who asked if he was their driver, would respond yes. The women would get into his car and he would rape them. Often he would drop one off or ask one to get out of the car to get him something. Oh, hey, can you get a newspaper from that machine? As soon as she got out, he would drive off, park somewhere, and rape the woman in the car. This first occurred in 2013 and has happened at least 4 times that people know of since then. He's called the rideshare rapist. He'll have his day in court, and I'm sure there will be more about this. So, ladies, please, everybody, when you get into a car, ask the driver his or her name. Verify it. Verify the car color, and verify the model. If it says Toyota, don't get into a Honda. Verify the license plate. Please, please, please be careful. Okay? On that note, see you next podcast.